All right, guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay. Today we're going to be talking about three phones in the Samsung lineup that are kind of making each other's heads butt, and it could be hard for a consumer to pick one of these devices. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the Galaxy S25 Ultra, the Galaxy S25 Edge, and the Galaxy S25 Plus. So let's start here with design and hardware. So this is an easy one to me, but it could be difficult for some consumers. I get a lot of questions on videos like which one, and it's difficult to say which one when in fact I don't know your needs. I don't know what you plan on doing with the phone, all these different things. I don't know what you like. So hardware wise, if you want the biggest screen that Samsung offers, just go with the Ultra, because ultimately what I've seen is that a lot of people want a very big display. And the Ultra is the one, 6.9 inches, but these two are 6.7 inches. So they're not far off, but the design of the Ultra is much bulkier. Let's put these on each side. Design is bulkier, and over camera you might say, well, it doesn't look like it's that much bulkier or bigger, but trust me, it is, folks. Because if you start to put a case on your phone or just hold it like this piece of hardware in your hand, you're going to instantly notice that these two feel a heck of a lot better because they're not squared off on the corners. Now, when it comes to design, you're going to pick a design that you think is nice, and so you're looking at the Ultra. It's a beautiful. They're all nice designs. Let's be clear on that. They're all beautiful designs. But the Ultra has these pointy rounded corners, and it's really thick flat sides on here. And then you look at the Plus, and it follows the same design language. It's just a nice round corner on the top, as you can see there. And then when you get to the Edge, you see it follows almost the same design language between the two, where it's not as round, but it's also not as square. And so when I put them here, you can see, let's try it this way. You can see how it looks like that. So this is definitely personal preference when it comes to the hardware. But I wanted to point it out, if you just want the biggest display that Samsung offers, well, you're looking at the Ultra then. So if in fact the biggest display is what you want from Samsung, just get the Ultra. I don't think that's a determining factor for a lot of people. It's just 0.9 or 0.2 more, and with that comes some sacrifices or compromises depending on who you are. If you have really small hands, then I obviously don't recommend the Ultra. If you feel like because the phone that's not in this lineup right here is the S25, which is the smaller variant, but it's still a 6.2 inch display or something like that, 6.3. That is a big display, and for a lot of people, they still feel like that's a big phone. So you just looking at giant displays, the Ultra is going to be the biggest one, but with that comes the sacrifice of comfort and feel in hand. And that's where these two make much better sense. They're both more rounded on the corners, and they're very good for extended holding in the hand, time holding hand, and you won't fatigue as quickly. So if you're looking for a big display, and you don't want to compromise like feel in hand and things like that, either one of these will do for you, because they have the more rounded, the Plus has the way more rounded corners than both of these, but the Edge is right in the middle. It's sitting at the same design as this Ultra, but it's rounded off like the Plus. So that's what you're going to look for if you're thinking about, hey, I want the biggest display, but I don't want it to be too uncomfortable to hold after a while. Then the Edge or the Plus would be better, in my opinion. Now, I want to jump to the other side of the platform here, or just the other side of the conversation, is price. I hear a lot of people saying that the Edge is overpriced. Well, reality is the Edge is priced right in where it should be priced. And I think the Edge is actually a great deal when considering the other two devices. So I'm gonna off screen here, I'm pulling up just some of the specs on the phones, and I just truly believe that I think the Edge comes in as somewhat misunderstood when it comes to the pricing. So the Ultra comes in at starts at $1,300, and then a 512 is 1,400, and I'm rounding here, and then a terabyte is roughly 1,700. That obviously is a lot higher in price than both of these phones. When you're talking about these phones, I don't like when people use the argument that the price is lower on this, so the Edge isn't worth it, because the price is not lower on these phones. If you're adding in contract deals and trade-ins, which I think some of you guys forget, not everyone has a trade-in that's worth even trading in. Not everyone has they're starting fresh, or they're coming from an older phone, but it's just not worth trading in. So now when you look at now remember this 512 gig is what 1,400 or something like that, 1,420. The 512 gig on the Edge is 1,220, and the starting price on the Edge is, let's round it to 1,100. Now when you get into the price of the Plus, the Plus starts at $1,000. The Edge starts at 1,100. All right. The 512 gig option on the Plus is 1,120, and again, this is 1,220. So they've priced it $100 more than this phone, but a lot less in price than the Ultra. There's a target audience for each one of these phones. So I wanted to talk about price first, because that seems to be an argument that a lot of people try to throw out there by discrediting the Edge as though it's not worth it. When reality is, even with the when you start to throw the trade-in deals in there, the Edge still comes in at a lower price than the Ultra, and maybe a little bit more than the Plus. Yeah. So I've never really understood this, when people try to put that argument out there that the Edge is not worth the price. You can throw all the discounts you want out there, but you need to apply those discounts to the Edge as well, because technically the Edge is on sale right now, but I'm not even using the Edge pricing for sale. And if the Plus, the 25, these 25s they've been out for a few months, right? So their pricing and discount and promos are over on the Samsung website. Only thing you can go on now is trade-ins. Yeah. So they do have a promo code where you can use Samsung 200 and save 200 without a trade-in. But at the same time, the Ultra is not under $1,000. The Plus is not under $1,000, and the Edge, being the new device, has the best offers right now because it's discounted, and you can do a trade-in if you so desire to. So pricing conversation, dead it. I don't understand how the Edge is not worth it when it's much less than the Ultra and only $100 more than the Plus, and has better features than the Plus. Makes sense. Think logically, folks. This phone is not $700. This one is not $500. If you're doing that, you're throwing in promos from carriers, so you need to include the Edge, which still makes it the better pricing of these phones when it comes to what it's offering, and if the Edge is worth it per se. Now, I'm not saying it's a better price than the Plus or a better price than the Ultra, and that's the final. I'm just saying the Edge has discounts too, but I'm not even going to apply those, and it's priced right where it should be, just $100 more than the Plus. Now, some of you guys have stated that the Edge just shouldn't exist. I even started initially by telling folks, hey, why now? But then after using the phone, I said, I can see why they did this. Placing this phone here at the same time as the launch as these two phones, folks, I can guarantee you consumers would hit this phone more, because it's got when you see something, let me say it in a way that some people can understand. When you meet fellas, you're looking at, you're out, if you go to the club or whatever you do, you're at the park or the gym, and you see someone, you don't look at them and say, I bet your personality is great. I bet you have great hygiene. You don't you look at what they look like. You say, woo, she's beautiful. Man, she fine. That's what you do. Ladies, whatever you say about men, you don't look at him and say, I bet he has a great credit score. You just don't do it. You see what you see on the surface. And on the surface, what I see as a person looking out for your best interests when it comes to buying smartphones, because a lot of you guys always tell me, hey, Jay, took your advice on that. Appreciate it. I'm like, yeah, but I always tell people, do your own research, son. Don't just take my word for it. Do your own research. We're all not going to agree on everything, but you're here because you came to hear what I had to say about this topic, or you wouldn't have clicked on the video. So my perspective on this is, when you're laying these out, from what I see, this is the latest design. This is the latest design. These two designs are dated. Now, we can ride Samsung when this phone doesn't exist. We all did it. We all, they need to change the design on that. I'm tired of, they're making the same device. Congratulations, you bought the same phone. I hear all these comments in my comments. I read all these comments in my comment section. And now that they actually did something that's very eclectic, very new, you start to pick it apart without checking it out. You just look at the price and then you listen to what somebody else said, which is a common thing on YouTube. Folks, if you lay these out, and some people say, well, what if they're all the same price? Okay, well, they're not the same price. Everything has to be different. You can't just use, if they're the same price, which one would you buy? Those are like common questions that just don't make any sense, because everything has to be a different price. It has to look different for it to be somewhat intriguing. So with these being $100 apart, just taking the Ultra out of the conversation for just a second, with these being $100 apart, folks, even with this one costing just $20 more, like this is what, $1,200, I think on the, let me go back to that price real quick off camera real quick. The Plus model, this Plus model 512 gig, it's actually $1,120. Yeah, and this one's $1,220. So $100 difference. That's what these are, $100 difference. This being the same dated design that you've seen before. This is the new design. Oh, man, you don't have to accept it, but I believe, based on all the conversations that I've had with people and what I've talked to people with, and people are going to pick this newer design. It's that ooh ah factor, that shock and awe. So you don't want to have, this literally is the phone from last year. So Samsung knew what they were doing by releasing this afterwards. They got you to trade in. They got you to buy this 25 Plus. And then they said, we're going to bring out the Edge. Hardware wise, in my opinion, this newer design is the way they're going, and I like it. And I would choose this over the Plus any day, just based off of the hardware alone. And I also would choose it over the Ultra, because the Ultra is a bulky, heavier phone. I don't know what people's obsession with is, thinking that it's the Ultra, that it's the best device. Folks, the Ultra only has the S Pen suite over these phones right here. What else does it have? Oh, and to count the cameras? Okay, it's got a few more lenses on here. Tell me, all you people out there who bought this Ultra, who don't create content, who's not getting any return on their devices, you're using it and you're using all of this? You're using your S Pen? I've done polls, folks, and most of the people who bought the Ultra don't even use the S Pen, which is why I started with the initial conversation, screen size. That is why they bought this phone. And if we're being honest, this is the same phone from last year too, is it not? Everybody complained about these things, and you bought it anyway. You bought it anyway. Now, there's a lot of people that still have the previous generations. Respect. I only have these newer generations because I'm creating content on them, and I want to keep you abreast of my opinion on these things like I do every year. So yeah, the Ultra is a nice device, but it's not like the ultimate in every area. It's the biggest display. It has the S Pen, and then they've also taken away functionality on the Ultra. Everybody complained about that, because I think they do their a lot of times I think companies are doing research and you don't know that they're doing research, and they're just taking your feedback and giving you back what you say you don't need or don't use, because tons of people, even creators, have said they don't even pull out that S Pen. So then when they take away the Bluetooth functionality, oh my God, I can't believe it. You see what I mean? So yeah, price, hardware, that's my thoughts on that. Performance, they're all getting good performance, straight up and down. Nothing different. They all are running the same. Someone has asked me also, do I use always on display? Yes, because they were talking about my battery, and I'm going to talk about that too. But I do have always on display, and I have my Ultra connected to it as well. So yeah, and we'll talk about battery too. We can get into battery next. But yeah, ultimately, the performance on these, they're all running the same processor. They are. They're running the same processor, and so they're all performing the same. And the reason I say that is because if I give you all three of these phones and then you do the same amount of apps and everything's the same, synced on them, you should then get the correct numbers for how these are performing. And so that is the case for me. These all have the same applications, and so they're all performing the same. You see what I mean? There's phone numbers. This one, I had to rotate the phone numbers for some of them, but there's numbers that are just set. So, and I talk about that to talk about, the calls and stuff like that. I'm using these for calls. I'm not just using them just for social media. They're phones, and so I'm going to check emails, and I'm going to make a lot of phone calls with them. You know what I mean? So yeah, performance, that's my thoughts on it. They're all the same, man. So you're not getting it. It has all the same software suite. You just get the S Pen suite over here, which again, you could say you use it every day, but you are a small minority if you do. Seriously. I pull it out because I'm creating with it. I typically will be recording with the Ultra because I always tell you I'm recording with whatever I'm recording with when it's these Samsung on Samsung phones or whatever I'm doing on the phone. So yeah, I don't believe that the majority uses the S Pen or even gets the full potential of this. If they're a content creator using it to create, then sure. And I'm not talking about content creators that come onto YouTube. I'm just saying in your personal life, there's a lot of people who create, they run companies, and they're going to use whatever phone they think is useful for them. So if you're doing that with the Ultra, you're getting some use out of that S Pen, great. I'm happy for you, but you can do the same thing with these phones right here without the S Pen. It's just a fact. So when it comes to the conversation on the whether this is the Edge is worth getting over the Plus, people bring up battery. Now this has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in it. This has a 49 milliamp hour battery, and this has a 39 milliamp hour battery in it. What would you do if I told you that the battery was the same across the board and then also better on the Edge sometimes? What'd you say to that? You would say, no, because with my experience, when you have to remember, again, you need all these devices, you need them all synced the same way, you need to make sure that you're signed into them the same way. This is how I'm getting these accurate numbers for myself. And battery life always depends on the person, folks. Always. It's going to always depend on you. So I say to you this reason because this Edge has outshined the Ultra, obviously. People complain about the Ultra, but the Ultra's battery with having a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, yeah, you guys want a bigger battery in here. I know you do. Because you see how and this is a thin phone, man. This is the Ultra and the Plus aren't thick phones. I don't know what that's about, but they're not thick phones. But this has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery inside, and it doesn't get better battery than the Plus at times. And then the Edge comes in with a smaller battery and gets better battery than both of these on occasion. So a lot of you guys like to measure screen on time. I don't particularly like screen on time. I prefer standby time, but some of you guys say, oh, if you have 4 days of use with only 3 hours of screen on time, you're not really using the phone. Well, it's funny, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and that is today's sponsor. So go ahead and hit the link in the description so you could win one of these phones right here. So I know you guys are going to want to win the Edge, and there's some other things down there. You can win Nintendo Switch, whole bunch of things, even this new laptop kickoff. You need to hit the link in the description and check out what you got going on for today's sponsor, TechADayGiveaway.com. You could win one of these, folks. You can win a Galaxy S25 Edge and some other great prizes. So I'm having this conversation about screen off, screen on, and things like that. And typically when I'm on the phone, which the bulk of my usage on phones is phone calls. And so I could have a 2-hour conversation and the screen is off. It's still pulling battery, but the screen is off. So my usage of my best usage of the Ultra, now that the battery's settled in, has been about 6 hours, maybe 6.5 hours of screen on time, and I can make it through a full day. I can make it through 24 hours, and I definitely could possibly, squeeze out 36 hours. The Plus, I'm able to get almost 2 days with about the same screen on time, and the Edge, I'm able to get the same thing. So, meaning at least 2 days of usage possibly, and about 6.5 hours of screen on time. Yeah, that's what we're working with. So this is more of a situation where it's down to optimization. Yeah, we're over this thing about the hardware being thin. I'm definitely over that for sure. But we're not going to discredit the hardware being nice. It's a nice new touch. It's a nice new touch that brings life to the Galaxy S25 lineup. It really does. So the conversation about the battery life, in my experience, they're pretty much, let's just say it's a neutral playing field. don't get caught up on this being a 3,900 milliamp hour battery, because it can make it through a full 24 hours and into the next day. And you'll be charging at the end of that next day, depending on how you're using your phone. So some days I got 5.5 hours of screen on time with, like 47 hours of usage. Some days I got 6.5 hours of screen on time with 40 hours of usage or standby. It just depends, but they all can pretty much do this. So I say eliminate the conversation about the Edge doesn't have a place. Yeah, I just don't buy it, man. I don't buy it. So those areas where people were honing in on the most, battery, price, hardware, the Edge isn't just a slim phone per se. It's bringing something to the table. And when it comes to cameras, it has the 200 megapixel camera that's on this phone. This one has a 50 megapixel camera. Now, I know that the megapixel count only means so much, but the fact of the matter is, these all record video the same. There's no other way to say it. So if you're worried about the Edge having better video or worse video, in pretty much identical scenarios, these are recording all the same. They're recording all the same video. It's just that simple. They all do it well. So I think if you're a person that just has nothing good to say about the Edge, I'm not here to defend the Edge. I'm just laying out my experience. And again, you clicked on my video. So the Edge isn't perfect by any means, but it's also not bad, and it has its place. And I understand why they brought it out. I still stand firm on that. If they would have brought out all these phones at the same time, I wouldn't even bought these right here. I would have just bought that, because I would have been like, man, I get a new sleek design finally from Samsung, and I get the same. Now afterwards, I would have realized, I made a great choice, because I'm getting the same experience and performance than all of these. And I have a great set of cameras, everything. I got a beautiful display, and I got the best looking hardware. That's my thoughts on it. It's your man Jay. Hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below. Why do you think the Edge is, here, or why they made it right now? Because I think they made it because they knew people wouldn't buy these two as much. And they don't even market the Plus model when they just market the Edge, because they know this is the smarter move instead of the Edge. You're paying a lot more money for the Ultra just for the S Pen and a little bit bigger display and a bunch of cameras you probably don't even know how to use. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but most consumers, like regular consumers, will buy the Ultra because they're told to buy it instead of buying the Plus model. And so when you key in those factors, the Edge would have existed at launch. The Edge would have gotten all the attention. It's simply put, marketing 101. Show you what you think you need and tell you what's the greatest. And then later on, I'm going to bring out something that's actually really changing for our company. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.